what happens is that, first of all, it's important for us to understand how do we actually fall asleep. What is the process of sleeping? Okay? And the process of sleeping is actually very, very, very similar, if not to say exactly the same, but in a different strength, of the process of death. The process is basically the same. The steps are the same. The only thing that changes is the strength of each one of the parts. Okay? So, when we fall asleep, if we observe, we lose the five senses, which is the first senses that weakens and we lose. The eyesight. When we start to fall asleep, difficult to keep the eyes open. And then what happens at the same time? Our body becomes straight, or it starts to become loose. The body starts to become a little bit loose. We are not able to keep straight. When you see someone falling asleep, it's like going down. And also we have the sensation of falling down when we start falling asleep. It's like it happens, we can perceive this better when we sleep in a place where we are not supposed to sleep. Because then it's like if the process of the dissolution is forcing in one way and we are trying to go in the other direction. So we have the elements pushing one way and we are pushing into the other direction. It's not really work. But in this way, it's easier for us to see the dissolution. So for example, when we are listening to someone, it happened to me one time so clearly. I went to listen to one person. I wanted to listen to him since a long time. And then finally, there I was, listening to him. But I had a problem that I had just arrived. I had a 12 hours jet lag from Brazil to Vietnam. And I was like, and who was talking was Thich Nhat Hanh. And I really wanted to listen to him. So I was there, and I was so happy. And I had, I think, 3 hours of sleep with a 12 hours jet lag, something like this. And I was completely dizzy. And I got there, and I was so happy. Oh, now let's listen. And then Thich Nhat Hanh, he talks with such a soft voice. Slowly inhale, exhale, and was going, talking softly. I felt the elements starting to dissolve. And I was trying to fight against and saying, no, I cannot fall asleep, and trying to push them away. And the elements were going on the other direction. And at a certain point, the elements win. Okay? And I fell asleep, what to do, And then I wake up suddenly and I said, no, I cannot sleep, let me listen. And then the elements win again, So, it's not so easy to have control over the elements. But anyhow, the point is that when we are not we don't want to fall asleep, and because of the tiredness or whatever, it's a natural process that will come, we can see better the process of the dissolution of the elements. Okay? So for example, observe when we fall asleep listening to someone who we want to listen. Sometimes we like falling asleep because we are not liking what we are listening. So this is a different situation, okay? Let's say we like what is being said, we want to listen, but we are tired or we simply ate too much at lunch, I don't know, whatever, and we start to fall asleep. First thing, we lose the eyesight. The eyes start to close. We are still listening, but we cannot keep very much our eyes open anymore. And we close the eyes. Then the body starts to get loosened, like soft, I get like a little bit like soft. And then at the same time, if we are trying, then we have the sensation that we are falling down. The sensation of falling down we can have even if we are laying down. Okay, not necessarily something if we are sitting. And this is the earth element dissolving. That's exactly the dissolution of the earth element. Okay, we are supposed to have the mirage-like vision, but basically what happens is that we lose the eyesight, the body becomes more weak and soft somehow. We lose the ability to perceive many things at the same time. Okay, it's like if we are falling asleep and someone comes to us to talk about something and someone else is asking something to us, we are not able to discern about everything and to understand everything that is happening. It's a lot if we are already understanding one. Okay? Then after that, what happens is that the water dissolves. As water dissolves from our five senses, what's the next one that dissolves? The hearing. The hearing. When hearing dissolves, what happens? We are there. No eyes are completely closed already, but we are still listening. And then slowly, the sound starts to become more and more far away, and start to get more and more far, more and more soft, and more far, until a moment that the volume is completely turned down. Then we cannot listen anymore. We still have touch, smell, and taste. Next, what happened? At this time also, we lose the ability of sensation. We lose the ability of feeling things. Okay? After that, we have the fire dissolves into the wind. And as the fire dissolves into the wind, we start to lose our body temperature, starts to get a little bit more cold. That's why also when we are sleeping, we feel more cold. And also we lose our smelling ability, and also our breath starts to change. It becomes more deep when we fall asleep. Sometimes even we can see people. Now already people when they start to fall asleep, you see a change in the pattern of the breath also. And then at this moment, we lose the ability of discernment, of discriminating between things. This is this, that is that. It's like if everything starts to melt as one. We don't have anymore the ability to say what is this and what is that. Okay? We still have touch. Okay? That's why, for example, if someone is falling asleep, the person has not completely felt asleep yet. It's falling asleep. What's the best way to make the person not to fall asleep? To say, don't sleep? To show something in front of the person? To say something, or to touch the person? To touch. Why? Because that's the last sense we lose. And that's the first sense to come back. Okay? So, that's why touching, in this sense, it's helpful also not to fall asleep. But that's the last sense that we actually lose. Another very clear example of this process is also if we faint. Okay, I've never fainted in my life. But from people that I know that have had this experience many times, they told me that it's exactly in the same process, and you can feel it very clearly. Okay? So what happened is that at a certain point, no more smell, our breathing pattern starts to change, and then wind dissolves into consciousness, into the space of consciousness, and then is when we really fell asleep completely. No? Our breath becomes deeper. Now we get a deeper breath. At the same time, we lose totally contact with the world around us. We don't feel anymore the body. We don't perceive anymore anything around us. We fell asleep. Okay? That's the gross process of falling asleep. And also, we have the dissolution of what is called the basis of realizing wisdom, which is the wish to do anything. And at the time this dissolves, and we don't have even the idea, I want to do this, I don't want to do that, I must do this, I must do that. We lose totally any contact with the world around us. Okay? It's similar, if, for example, if we fell asleep while we are driving. Okay? This happened to me once, very shortly, luckily, some years ago. And what happened is that when you're driving, the last thing that you want to do is to fall asleep, right? And we know that, okay, I need to do this, I need to watch here, I need to do this and that. But as the element starts to dissolve, we lose totally the thought, I need to drive, I need to do this, I don't need to do that. It's completely lose the contact with the world around us. Okay? So all of this is part of the natural process of sleeping, which is exactly the same natural process of death. Just that in death it comes much stronger. Okay? Like when we fall asleep, we can feel the elements, pulling in one way, and we try to pull on the other way around. If it's difficult not to fall asleep when we are falling asleep, when we are actually dying, the strength of the elements is 100 times stronger. Okay? But the process is basically the same. So, in this way also, if we understand the process of sleep, and we see that it happens every day, and we start to observe it, we will create so much more familiarity also with the actual process of death. And we'll have much less fear of death also. Because, okay, I know what's happening. Have happened it to me so many times, just need to multiply the number of nights that I slept in my whole life. It's not something new, death. The whole process is basically the same. Okay? But now going back to our sleep. This is the process which we call the gross process of sleeping. The same way that the process of death is divided into the gross process of death and the subtle process of death, the process of falling asleep also is divided into the gross process of sleep and the subtle process of sleeping. Okay? The subtle sleep happens after we have officially falling asleep. Okay? It's between that moment and when we start dreaming. That's when the subtle sleep happens. Okay? And in the Buddhist tradition, it is divided into 4 parts, which is called the white vision, the red vision, the black vision, and clear light, which we have this very soft experience of these 4 steps, these 4 appearances also they may be called, during our own sleep. For most of the people, we have totally not any consciousness of this subtle sleep process. We are totally unconscious. We gain back our consciousness in the moment of dreaming. Okay? If we gain consciousness. But normally that's where we gain. But it is possible to keep awareness and consciousness during the whole process. The first step for that is to be aware and have consciousness of the gross process of sleeping. So, how we do that? First thing, we shouldn't go to sleep being too tired. It's like, what happens very often is that we go to sleep when we are completely not anymore able to keep our eyes open. Okay? So we do anything just to try to keep awake until the last minute. I don't know, watching TV or reading something or doing something until the last moment. Okay? What is important in this case, in order for us to have awareness at our own sleep, is to go to sleep. Sure, we need to be a little bit sleepy, otherwise it's quite difficult, no? But we need to go to sleep in a moment where we are somehow still with a clear mind, not totally taken by sleep. Otherwise, we will not even see the dissolution of the elements. Suddenly, boom, we're sleeping, and then suddenly I woke up, okay? It's like, so we go to sleep not being too tired, okay? This is one thing, generally speaking. Another thing that is important is just before going to sleep, we should not have experiences which are emotionally too strong, of attraction or aversion. Because what happens is that if we have a strong emotion of aversion or a strong emotion of attraction, just before we go to sleep, like watching a movie or talking to someone, whatever, this will direct our sleep also. Because remember, in the same way that in the process of death, the subtle mind follows the direction of the gross mind, the same thing happens in our sleep. The mind of the sleep follows the direction of the last gross mind we had before falling asleep. So when we go to sleep, the best thing is to fall asleep thinking about something positive, making the practice of Guru Yoga, remembering bodhicitta, the correct view of reality, reciting a mantra, feeling love for someone, I don't know, something. We need to generate a positive thought, a positive attitude, and fall asleep with that positive aspect. This is the best way how we can do, because this will naturally direct our mind later in our state of dreaming. Okay? So, with this we have the first part of the process of sleeping. Is it clear, this? Can we recognize ourselves within that? Okay. So, what happens is that once we fall asleep, then from this point on starts what is called the subtle sleep, which is basically in the normal, the Buddhist tradition is called the four appearances, which is the white vision, the red vision, the black vision, and the clear light. If we look from the modern medicine, it is talking about that before we start dreaming, there are four states of sleep. No? There is the REM state when we actually are sleeping, and before that there are other four states of sleep. And this is very similar to what we call actually the subtle sleep. Okay? So the process of sleep starts when the earth starts to dissolve and ends just before we start dreaming. Okay? So this is the whole process of falling asleep. So how do we put this into practice? How do we use this as our own practice for enlightenment? First thing, we need to have awareness. So one of the very useful things to do is to, before we go to sleep, this is independently of the three transformations, okay? It's something that is good to train before even. It's already a good tool that if we have it. Is before we go to sleep, we say to ourselves, I'm going to be aware during my dream. I'm going to be aware in my dream. I'm going to be aware in the dream. I'm going to be aware in my dream. I'm going to be aware in my dream. Then we fall asleep. I'm going to be aware in the dream. Then we are not aware in the dream. Then the next night, I'm going to be aware in my dream. I'm going to be aware in my dream. I'm going to be aware in my dream. I'm going to be. Then we fall asleep. We are not aware in the dream. Then next night, I'm going to be aware in my dream. I'm going to be aware in my dream. Then slowly, depends on our own ability, the strength of our determination. Maybe after 3 nights we start to be aware. After 10 nights, it depends on each one. But by having this, we should not stop. Then we will see that we will be aware in our dream, which is already one step done. It's a preliminary step, but it's one step done. I have a friend in Brazil, a disciple, and she was telling that she used one method which worked for her, and she shared with people also, which I think is quite interesting. What she was doing, it was during the day, whenever she passed from one door to another space, like going from one room to the other, whenever she passed through a door, she would ask, am I sleeping or am I awake? Is this a dream or am I awake? Or something like this. No, am I sleeping or am I awake? I am awake. Another door, am I sleeping or am I awake? I am awake. Am I sleeping or am I awake? I am awake. All the time, the whole day. For days. Like thousands of times, because we pass through so many doors every day, no? The more doors we pass, the best in this case. Okay? So am I sleeping or am I awake? I am awake. So you go to the next room, you look, and then you ask, am I sleeping or am I awake? I am awake. And like this, you go, you do it so many times, that what will happen is that suddenly you will be dreaming, and in the dream you will ask, am I sleeping? You pass through a door and you ask in the dream, am I sleeping or am I awake? I am sleeping. Okay? Then you are aware of that you are dreaming. Okay? This is one technique. There are many techniques that can work for this. Okay? So in this matter, what it's important is like to train ourselves to be aware during the dream, is we need first of all to put this direction into our mind. I must be aware during my dream. So we need to direct ourselves in that manner. Okay? From this we can have a result. If we wait the day that we're going to be aware in our dream just by itself, it's very difficultly going to happen. Okay? So we need to direct our mind in that matter. Okay. Then, to start with the 3 transformations, the first is the transformation of death into the Dharmakaya at the moment of sleep. So how do we do that, technically? We go to sleep. Okay, we are laying down. Possibly we lay down with the right hand under the head, the left hand above, lying at our right side, just the same position as Buddha Shakyamuni passed away. Okay, it's said to be the best position, to lie on our right side. Then, but if for someone this is too uncomfortable, okay, do another position, that's not a problem. But this is the one that is normally given. And which is it's called the position of the sleeping lion. Okay, so we put ourselves in the position of the sleeping lion, and then we meditate actually on the union of great bliss and emptiness. Okay, so as we are there, then first thing we start to generate the sensation of bliss, great happiness. Before that, we request the blessings of our Guru. Then we can do the practice like Guru Yoga. Then from that, we generate the union of great bliss. And with the sensation of great bliss, we meditate on the lack of inherent existence. Okay? So all phenomena lack inherent existence. Everything is empty of inherent existence. Nothing exists by its own characteristics. We concentrate ourselves in that lack of inherent existence of phenomena. And we keep, that's our main point of concentration. We're meditating on the lack of inherent existence with great bliss. Who is meditating the lack of inherent existence? Great bliss. The mind of great bliss that perceives the lack of inherent existence. That's the union of great bliss and emptiness. Okay? So I generate that state, I meditate on that, I'm laying down. And then as I am meditating on that, what I do is that I start to observe, not to induce myself, but to observe the process of dissolution of the elements. So everything is empty of inherent existence with great bliss. Now the earth element is dissolving. As I experience the mirage-like vision, I cannot see anymore. It appears as a mirage, but is empty of inherent existence. Then I observe that the ear side starts to lose. The water dissolves. It's empty of inherent existence, but the water is dissolving. It appears as the dissolution of the water. Then I start to see that my breath starts to change, the dissolution of fire. Then finally I get the dissolution of wind. And during all this process, we look that the gross mind starts to lose strength. We keep the awareness of emptiness in the appearance of all the different elements dissolving, which is basically the inner experience of the different visions, which is the mirage-like vision, the smoke-like vision, the fireflies-like vision, and the flame-like vision, just as in the process of death. What is very important for us to understand here is that if we try to do this process, okay, inducing ourselves, for example, okay, now first I need to meditate on emptiness. All phenomena lack inherent existence. Okay. Then now I need to have the dissolution of earth. Okay, close my eyes. Now the earth is dissolving. Okay. Now the dissolution of water. I don't listen anymore. Okay. And we start to force ourselves through the process of death, controlling from our head. We are never going to fall asleep. And we are not doing it. We are meditating on the simulation of the process of falling asleep. We are not falling asleep. So the point is that because we should have meditated in this process of dissolution of the elements, in meditation, so many times, with so much familiarity with that, what we do at this point, we meditate on emptiness and we follow the process of falling asleep. We do not induce it, we follow it. We observe it. It's just like if we are in front of someone and we look at the person instead of making the person to do something. Okay? So in the same way, we are there and then we start observing the process of the dissolutions because it will come naturally. Okay? So as Claudia was asking, in order to be able to do this, the first thing that we need to do is to meditate on it many and many and many and many times. So in our meditation, the simulation of the dissolution of the elements becomes so clear that we get familiarized with it, that after we can see it when it's actually happening in a subtle way in our sleep. You know, one of the proofs that I had that this is possible, first of all, I think all of us had experiences of being aware during our sleep, first of all. Second, the dissolution of the elements, I think we all have already seen it in one moment or another, that the elements are dissolving and so on. So it's a matter of generating awareness during this process. Okay? But there was this Lama in my class, in the monastery, in the Sera monastery. His name is Siling Tongo Rinpoche. And he was a very intelligent, sensitive person, and he was a bit younger than me. He entered the monastery when he was 3 years old. And we were actually in the same class. So one day we were doing debate session. Between one debate and another something, we start to talk about dreams. And when talking about dreams, at a certain point he told me, yes, but isn't it normal to be aware during dream? I say it's not everyone. Because I said no, because for me, since I can remember, my own experience is I am falling asleep, I felt asleep, I am dreaming, I am waking up, I woke up. He said, I never lose consciousness, awareness of what is happening. Isn't this the common thing that happens to everyone? And I was telling him, not exactly, really. That's actually something quite special. So, this shows the imprints of previous life realizations, really. So, he was also very intelligent. He used to memorize 1,500 pages a year. Okay, so he had a very good visual memory, and he would memorize a lot. And he also liked very much making jokes in the pujas and playing. He was a very happy person. Anyhow, this is just to say that it's possible actually to have such awareness. This is not something that is impossible. The important thing for us to understand that the process of meditation at the moment of sleep is not to force the process of sleep, it's to observe it. And in order to be able to observe it, we must familiarize with it in the moment of meditation. Another thing that we need to do also is to request the blessings and do the purifications. Another thing which is useful in order to be able to do this is to have a regular lifestyle with timing and so on. Okay? So, otherwise, if we go to sleep in different timings and then at the same time we eat late and maybe we eat too heavy and so on, our elements, they become unbalanced, so they become more strong. Maybe the earth is stronger and then the water is weaker, and then what happens is that we get messed up. So it's much, much more difficult to have such awareness. That's why it's said that in order to be able to have such awareness and meditate on it, it's important to have, at least during that period, a regular timing, eat in the right way, not to have strong emotions before we fall asleep. Otherwise, our mind is going to be directed by that. Okay? So the process is meditate on emptiness in the union of great bliss, follow the process of sleep, observe it. And it will go earth into water, we have the mirror-like vision, the smoke-like vision, the fireflies-like vision, the flame-like vision, white vision, red vision, black vision, and clear light. When we arrive in clear light, then we meditate in the divine pride of Dharmakaya. We are already sleeping, but because of keeping the awareness, we are able to keep that same subtle level of awareness. It's not an awareness coming from the head, it's awareness coming from the heart. Okay? When we are falling asleep, don't try to control the process of sleep with the head. It's not going to work. We're not going to fall asleep. We need to have the awareness from the heart, not from the head. Okay? Then, as we have this awareness, as we are falling asleep, we keep the awareness. This will bring us the ability to be aware at the subtle part of sleep until we get at clear light. So when we enter the clear light state of sleep, then we meditate on what? There's nothing more than an infinite emptiness of light, which is empty of inherent existence, because I have had the awareness of the emptiness of inherent existence since the beginning of the gross mind. And as we have said, the subtle mind follows the direction of the gross mind. So as I fall asleep, by meditating on emptiness, this process will follow also the awareness of emptiness with great bliss. So, at the moment of the clear light, there is nothing more than a total emptiness, full of light, empty of inherent existence, inseparable of great bliss, and I am such union of great bliss and emptiness, which is the Dharmakaya. Okay? So we meditate on that, and we stay on that state as long as our dream, allows us to do at that moment. Okay? as long as we can stay. So this is the fourth union, or the fourth mixing, which is called to mix the clear light of sleep with the Dharmakaya. Okay? After that, from the state of clear light, we will appear in a dream state, which happens in an instant. If we observe when we start dreaming, it doesn't happen gradually. If we are awake, then suddenly we fall asleep, and then suddenly, bloop, we wake up in a dream. The dream is not something gradual, it's something fast. It's something spontaneous, instantaneous, okay? The state of the dream. And this is where we need to do the transformation of Bardo into Sambhogakaya, okay? So, once we fall asleep, what happens is that we have fallen asleep, we have the experience of clear light, so we meditate on the union of clear light and the Dharmakaya, okay? So at that point, there is nothing more than a great emptiness full of light, empty of inherent existence, inseparable of great bliss, and I am such union of great bliss and emptiness. I am the Dharmakaya. We stay in that state as long as we can, and that from the state we arrive in the dream state. Okay? The dream arises an instant. So within the state of clear light, actually, we have the intention in which we say, I will generate myself in a pure form, in a gross level, because in order to be of the benefit of other sentient beings, I cannot stay only in the state of clear light. I need to manifest myself in a more gross way also. So from that, we appear in the state of the dream. In the dream, we should be aware that we are dreaming, because we have kept the awareness since we were falling asleep. And in this state of awareness of the dream, we generate ourselves as the deity, as Yamantaka, as Guhya Samaja, as Vajrayogini, whatever is our main practice. We generate ourselves as the deity in the moment of the dream, normally with a white body, okay, or a subtle white body. And as we generate ourselves in the dream, it's like when we are dreaming and we are aware that we are dreaming, can we do anything like flying or anything like that? In the same way, we are aware that we are dreaming and we are going to use our dream to make offering to holy beings and help sentient beings in the form of the deity. So I'm going to generate myself in the dream as the deity. I'm going to go to the Pure Lands. I'm going to go to Tushita to meet Buddha Maitreya, Lama Tsongkhapa, Dorje Shukden who are in Tushita, make offerings to them. Then I go to Shambhala, then I come back. I go to Kacha, the Pure Land of Vajrayogini. Then I can go here and there and make offerings to all the Buddhas and the masters of the lineage. And I can do all of this. Then I go to the hell to help the sentient beings that are suffering so much. I go to help people that are sick. I hope to help. Then when I'm alone, I cannot help everyone, so I manifest from my heart infinite emanations that go to help each and every sentient being, bringing the Dharma for those that are ready to receive the Dharma, helping with food for those that are hungry, bringing medicine for those that are sick, and helping each and everyone going to the hell and bringing coolness for those that are too hot, and so on. Warmth for those that are feeling too cold. And we go and we help each and everyone. And by giving this to all sentient beings, by the end, everything comes and reabsorbs back in our house. So we have a lot of fun to have while we are dreaming. There's a lot to do, actually. Which is a way we are like simulating being a Buddha. So we make offering to holy beings and we help sentient beings. So by generating ourselves as the deity, that's what we do during the dream, okay? So we go around, we help sentient beings and so on. One interesting thing here is that it is said that during the state of dream, there are two possibilities of perceptions. One way of perception that is a simple reflection of our own mind, which is the most common way of dreaming. Then there is another way of dreaming where we can actually have a perception of other people, of other places. And even though it's other people and other places, they still appear to us as the way how we can see it, as we project into it. Okay? So this is similar to what is called in the West sometimes astral traveling. So it's like going around with a subtle body, and that's why it is said that it's possible really to go to the Pure Lands and to go to help others. This is possible. Like there was this master, Putten Tamche Kempa, and during his sleep, he would do this practice, and then he would open in the floor 50 pages of a book, back and forth, because he had 2 copies of each book. They have no binding, the Tibetan books, no? So he would open 50 pages. And then in his sleep, in his dream, he would come out of his body and he would memorize the whole 50 pages while he was sleeping. So the next day he had his 50 pages memorized. And every night he would do. And I think he would memorize during the day some another 100 pages and during the night another 50 pages and something like that. And he had an immense amount of knowledge. Like he would write, he built a big stupa, and then he would go around the stupa putting 1 secretary at each side of the stupa. And while he was going around, it was not so big, the stupa, but anyhow, while he was going around, whenever he got in front of each one of the secretaries, he would say 1 line of the book that he was writing. But he was writing 4 books at the same time on 4 different subjects. So as going around, he was talking to one, saying the phrase, then going to the other, saying the other phrase, then going to the other, saying the other phrase. And in this way, he was able to write more than 100 volumes of 1,000 pages each. Okay? So there is a saying, if you don't know something, ask Bhutan. If you are not sure about something, ask Tsongkhapa. Because they say, Lama Tsongkhapa, everything in his text, he's so precise. And he can assure you about what is right, what is wrong, how things are. If you want to know about a vast knowledge, know about things, generally speaking, then you ask Bhutan. He wrote about simply everything that you can imagine. Okay? That's more or less what a Tibetan is saying. Anyhow, the point is that while we are asleep, it's possible to have also this type of subtle experiences. But it's important for us not to, how do you say, there is a saying in Portuguese which gives very much the idea, which we call viajar na maionese, which means, technically it means to travel in the cheese, something like this. Which is, you see something and then you start to imagining it, and it's so wonderful when you go and you're making all these projections, you know. There is a danger when we start talking, oh, when I'm dreaming, then I make astral traveling, then is this, then I met this, then I did that, and we start creating a whole world. When actually maybe it's just a simple dream. So we need to keep our foot on earth, not go too much. Is it possible to have this type of experiences? Yes. And if we observe well, it's very clear when it's an experience and when it's a simple dream. Okay? It's actually quite clear, the difference. Anyhow, the point now is, once we do that in the dream state, this is called the transformation of the dream into the Sambhogakaya, and which is the 5th union, the 5th mixing. Then after that, we say, we are still dreaming, in order to be of benefit for all sentient beings, I must manifest myself in a gross body, so they can see me and they can communicate with me with clarity. So what I do, I absorb myself into the heart, and from the heart I wake up. Okay? It's said that when we wake up, the dream body absorbs into the heart. So it's like we absorb. It's like it's said to be, if we go to a mirror in winter, and we do what in Tibetan is called hadap. I don't know how to say that in English. We go in the winter in the mirror and we do. How do you call that in English? In Tibetan it's called hadap. Okay? Anyhow, we do like this in the mirror. We go in the mirror and we do. It becomes, how do you call that? We've condensed. And when it goes away, how does it go? From the center to the extremes or from the extremes to the center? From the extremes to the center. That's the same way how the absorption goes. And when there is a manifestation, it's like if we take a pure a water, like a lake, with no movement, and we throw a little stone in the middle. It manifests from the center to the extremes. That's how we manifest. And then when we reabsorb, it's like absorbing from the extremes to the center, just like we see the condensation in the mirror. Okay, so the existence of the dream, everything absorbs back into the heart. Black vision, clear light, black vision, and then we wake up. Red vision, white vision, clear light, black vision, red vision, white vision. And then we start to have again our senses. First sense, what's the first sense that we gain when we wake up? touch, When we don't want to wake up and we wake up, then we have first the touch, and then we say, oh, but I don't want to wake up, we're moving. And then we start slowly to listen to the sound that is far away, it starts to arrive. And before that we start to feeling that, first we feel the touch, then we feel the taste in the mouth, I need to go to wash my teeth. And then we can feel some smell, and then we start to listen better to what is around, and finally we open our eyes. Sometimes we even need to throw some water in our face to bring the earth element back again really well. Okay? So what happened basically is that this is the normal process of awakening, which is the opposite as the process of falling asleep. In this process, we should do it generating and seeing that the elements are coming back, and then as the elements come back, we see ourselves in the form of the deity. As Yamantaka, as Guya Samaja, as Akshobhya, Amitabha, Tara, Kurukuli, it doesn't matter what's our main practice, Vajrayogini, whatever. But we see ourselves in a pure body with a commitment to act for the benefit of sentient beings. That's transforming rebirth into the Nirmanakaya in the moment of awakening. Okay? In order to be able to do this, 3 transformations in the moment of sleep, we must first do them well in the moment of meditation. The better I do in the moment of meditation, the better I'm going to be able to do it in the moment of dreaming. The better I'm able to do the 3 transformation in the moment of dreaming, the better I'm going to be able to do it in the actual moment of death, bardo, and rebirth. Okay? So this is how it's actually possible. By training ourselves in meditation, do it as we sleep, and finally do it in the actual death, bardo, and rebirth. And then we are out of samsara. Okay? So basically, this is like in few words, the process, how it's supposed. Like Rinpoche, when he did Yamantaka retreat, when he was quite young, I think he was 13 or 9, now I don't remember exactly, and how he did a Yamantaka retreat at Tashilumpa Monastery of 3 months Yamantaka retreat. And during this retreat, what they would do is that Rinpoche told that they would be sitting, they would never lay down to sleep. No, there are quite many monks that still do like this. I know at least that I know personally 2 at Tashilumpa Monastery. But anyhow, that they never lay down to sleep. No? At night, before sleeping, they sleep in meditation, following the process of death, and then they sleep. Then we don't know what they're dreaming. And when waking up, what happened is that Rinpoche was saying that in the retreat, they would wake up already with in an instant, I appear as Yamantaka with 1 face, 2 arms, and so on. Okay? So during this, so as we wake up, we say, I appear in an instant, I appear as Aryatara. In an instant, I appear as Vajrasattva. In an instant, I appear as Vajrayogini. Whatever is the main practice that we are doing. But the main point is, as we wake up, we generate a pure body. This is the first thought that we have as we wake up. I generate a pure body, I am in a pure form in order to help all sentient beings. Okay. So this is this process that we do of the 3 transformations at the moment of sleep. Okay? And then we have the 3 unions, which is we unite the clear light of sleeping with Dharmakaya, dream with Sambhogakaya, awakening with Nirmanakaya. Okay? There was a question? I think to remember the dream is not that much important. What is more important is to be aware in the dream and to be able to do the transformation at the dream itself. No? But I think the more we are able to do the process of awakening with awareness, then the better we can remember it. Because the reason why we don't remember the dream mostly is because the shock of awakening. Because we lose the awareness between the process of awakening. So this is what makes us not to have such memory also. That's why normally what we need to do when we had a dream is to recall the dream before the elements are fully back. Okay? So for example, if we had a dream and we are still remembering the dream, before we open the eyes and we start listening to the things around, we should recall the dream and bring it to our gross consciousness again, the memory. Then we can keep the memory of the dream. Okay? Okay, last question, then we stop. Then this is a different way. When we say that life is like Bardo, it's just taking one aspect of Bardo, which is the aspect that Bardo, it means that we are between things. And in life, we are always between situations. That's why we bring the aspect of Bardo to life. When we say that dream is like Bardo, it's actually because it's very, very, very similar in many, 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 many aspects. We have a subtle body, we have all the five senses, but they are not physical. We wake in the Bardo in an instant. We can move at any place, at any time, and at any speed. So many aspects which are really very, very similar. But when we wake in a dream, we're always in the middle of a story. We never create the story from the beginning as we wake up in a dream. This is how it is. Okay? But if we are aware, then we can create our story even though we already woke up in one. Okay? Jetson Lama kotse rapten chi namkar tinle chochur gepadang losan tempe dreme sasongi drove munse tatu ne gyurch Nimo dele tsendele nime kunyan delekshin Nintzen taktu delekpe Koncho sumgi chingi lob Koncho sumgi ngodrup tsol Koncho sumgi trashisho